be sharing a survey for all these ambassadors. If you have any issues regarding any wildlife conflict, wildlife legislation, or anything that we can help on, this survey is meant for that. So I think that survey will be shared in just a few. And again, if you, it's meant to be done during the morning or during the lunchtime. So you can fill that out, and then at the end of the day, we will be ruffling a prize on for those who have done this survey.
Yeah, so I'll just be posting this survey into our chat here on the same Zoom call in just a moment. Then you guys can follow that and fill it out at your convenience before hopefully 1:25, which is when we want to discuss the answers that we get. And it's just a couple of questions to kind of enhance opportunities for collaboration and for you guys to be able to work together and for us to be able to help you more. So it's a very short survey, and it would be great if you guys could get us some replies on that for us to discuss. And I'll be sharing that now. And then at the end of the day, guys, we will also be having a exit survey, which you can all answer, and then you get a chance to enter our final raffle on Monday. All right, so that link is right in the chat now. You guys can just follow that and hopefully over the lunch break be able to answer those survey questions. I'll be giving another reminder after this next presentation.
So moving on, we will give the word directly to Ms. Victoria Chi from the Belize Forest Department, who will be giving a presentation on wildlife legislation. So Ms. Victoria, if you're in the meeting, you can go ahead and start to present. We might need to
I need permission to share. Hi.
1 second, let me just give you. So you are supposed to share, be able to share your screen now. We made you the post. I need to go ahead and try. We're just gonna ask our participants if you can just mute your mic. Ms. Stephanie, you can just mute your mic so that it doesn't interfere on the
We can do it from here.
But we're not hosting the microphone.
Okay, I think I'm in. Let me see. Are you guys seeing my presentation?
Yes, we can see the screen now.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria Chi, forest officer with the Forest Department. I deal with communications for the Forest Department and recently have been given back, I will say, wildlife. So I am doing those programs for the Forest Department as we speak. And so as part of the as the program, I will be presenting to you guys on the amendments or the proposed amendments that we have been working on towards the new bill of the legislation. So I will not give you all the details because if you recall, the Wildlife Protection Act is only 16 pages currently, And the new legislation or the bill that we're proposing has a lot more pages and definitions. And so I will give you a little bit, a little idea of what is to be expected when it comes to the new regulations. So, Wildlife Matters, a new chapter for Belize's wildlife, from Wildlife Protection Act to the Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill. So that is what we are calling it right now, the Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill. So legislative evolution. So some of the differences that are to be expected is that the Wildlife Protection Act from 1982 was basically mostly for protection of species. The Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill this time around will deal with a lot of the management of these wildlife. It will not only deal with protection, but it will deal with management as well. There were, I think, 27 sections. Now we will have 73 different sections within the bill. Parts, there were 4 parts, and if you go back to the legislation, it would have had part 1, which is preliminary, part 2, which were objectives, and so on. This time it will have 9 different parts, and I will go over some of the additions to the parts that have been suggested to be added in the bill. Our approach, like I mentioned, it was focused mainly on protection. Now we've broadened our scope, our management, and we have a sustainability focus when it comes to the new bill that we're proposing. So like I mentioned, we expanded our legal scope. When it comes to the definition of wildlife, if you can recall, wildlife would have been undomesticated mammals, birds, reptiles, their parts, their nests, and their eggs. This time for us, wildlife will cover everything, including captive and exotic species, which we have seen an increase since COVID. We've seen an increase in these wildlife, still considered wildlife, coming into our country. Another expansion to our scope is we recognize that wildlife as a natural patrimony. We exclude livestock since that is covered under the Livestock Act, and we excluded marine species that are also covered under the Fisheries Act. But just as a preview, the wildlife definition for the bill that we're proposing will read a little bit different in the sense that wildlife will now mean any species of living organisms, any part of such species that naturally inhabits Belize, whether permanently or temporary, any specimens of wildlife in captivity, exotic undomesticated species, but excluding livestock, domesticated species, or internationally recognized companion species bred in captivity for multiple generations. So that will be the new definitions for wildlife. And if you understood the definition, it is expanded a lot. It has been expanded a lot to cover everything that entitles wildlife, because we've always had the ostrich, and I have the ostrich picture there because we've always been quarreling if ostrich is considered livestock, if it's not, and so on. But this new bill will cover those loopholes that we have seen throughout the years. It will also introduce biodiversity and customary use concepts, which is something to look forward to, because a lot of times we exclude the customary use, and we don't consider them. And the legislation or the new bill that we're proposing works a lot with that. We are respecting customary use, and how it is that they hunt and so on will be covered within the new bill. So one new addition to the sections is the guiding principles. This was not is not in the current legislation. And these are the guiding principles that we've introduced and added. And so we have 5 of them. The first one is intrinsic value of life. We have an ecosystem approach when it comes to our guiding principles, scientific and traditional knowledge integration, fair and equitable benefit sharing, and participatory governance, which is something that was included and that didn't exist in the does not exist in the current legislation. So when it comes to governance and administration, the wildlife protection called for game wardens and the minister. A shift this to the bill is that the new bill will have the lead authority as the chief forest officer, and specifically the forest department, because as it is, it still was up in the air. So now we're linking it directly to our parent act so that it reflects when it comes to definitions and so on, so that we don't have that disconnect between the two legislations. When it comes to enforcement roles, we only had within the Wildlife Protection Act the game rangers that are labeled as the persons that can respond or should respond for the Wildlife Protection Act. The bill is now proposing that we have authorized officers, which would include forest officers, the police, customs, into embedded as authorized officers when it comes to the enforcement of this new bill. When it came to regulation powers in the current act, it is very minimal. There are not much sections that we can charge on. It's basically hunting, that we would have to prove on harassment and so on, which is kind of difficult to prove. The new bill is proposing that we have regulatory and planning powers, and so our powers has been extended, and so we will see a lot of regulations when it comes to powers, what can be done. And one of the good things that we followed is the Fisheries Act, because the Fisheries Act is a brand new legislation, and it has a lot of weight, and gives a lot of powers to authorize officers, and so that's something that we liked, and that's something that we're adding into the new bill. Another one was public participations. We had none, or we have none in the current legislation. This time around, we are proposing mandatory consultations for orders and plans, and like you will see later on that we have different plans that need to be done when it comes to controls, management of species, and so on. And it won't be done haphazardly, but it will be done in consultation processes, and it will be done in a systematic way, given that we will be doing management plans for different things and different species, in order for us to see what it is that we expect from the different species, how we expect to increase their populations, or if we're having problems with their populations, then we will have to control it, but it has to come in a management plan in a way that it is beneficial for both humans and animals at the same time. So another thing that we have is the wildlife management framework that I was mentioning. So this is not existing in the current legislation. This is what we're proposing now. We will have management frameworks, and these will cover species recovery plan. We already have some of these currently ongoing, but we don't have a plan per se as a country for it, and we don't have regulations or frameworks that guide these. So the new bill is putting them in place so that we have these, and these can be done. For example, we're doing species recovery for iguanas, but there's no legislation that covers them to do that, and so now the new bill will now be able to cover those. It gives you sustainable use management plan as well, the same thing. If people want to do rearing and so on, they can't basically do rearing right now as it is within the legislation, because again, if you are in possession of any of these wildlife, it is illegal. The new bill is proposing that you can do these, but it will have to be under a sustainable use management plan. The third one is species control plan, and hence the reason I was speaking to that, because for example with crocodiles, if it is that based on research it shows that we have an excessive population of crocodiles, then we can say, all right, we need a species control plan for X species, and we need to develop that, and that the new bill will give us the power to do that. because again, right now we can't have a species control plan for any of the species, meaning we cannot kill or do anything much with these species because the legislation does not allow for that. Another one is the exotic species regulation plan. Again, if you see my one of the images that I have there, which are the Africanized hedgehogs, which are in country. We have these species. What do we do with them? Obviously, we can't release them back in the wild, and so we need a plan on how to deal with them. And currently, we don't have that. It's not inserted in the legislation, but the new bill proposes to have regulations in place to handle these exotic species and how it is that we go around dealing with them. Another framework that is within the current bill that we're proposing is collaborative and community agreements, in the sense that it will allow the forest department to legally get into agreements with our rehab centers, with the Belize Zoo, with community members that want to manage an area for wildlife, or for whatever reason that falls within the bill, then that can be done. So number 5 is really important, because this would then allow the rehab centers to operate legally, if you want to call it, because right now, yes, they do have a memorandum of understanding, but it's not really embedded within the legislation. So this is a good one, because this is not will now allow us to get into an MOU with them, and legally they will be covered and we will be covered in that sense. So when it comes to permits and licensing, we will see an increase when it comes to that. Currently, the legislation only calls for hunting license, dealer's license, import and export permits. Those are all the permits that a person can apply for within the current Wildlife Protection Act. The new Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill is proposing that we will have commercial hunting. We will have a difference now between, instead of just vaguely saying hunting license, it will be a commercial hunting permit. You will have subsistence hunting permits. We will have species control permits. We will have scientific research and collection permits. We will have special wildlife collection permits that will allow you for the ranching and so on. We will allow the captive wildlife permit, but these will come with some other regulations when it comes to that. Specifically, when it comes to captive wildlife, it would mean that you will still not be able to own any wildlife, but you will be able to grandfather. We will be able to grandfather in all the actual permits that we have currently. So for example, your parrot that is legally registered and you have a permit for, you will be able to keep it through this legislation, but it will only be once you're registered, banded, and so it will be grandfathered in. So we're phasing out those captive wildlife permits. So once we phase it out, it means that anything that you see or anyone who has one, then it will be automatically illegal. So we're going to phase out those captive wildlife permits. And another one is the transport permits, and this is also again for our rehab centers and so on that normally transport animals. There will be a transport permit, in the sense that when you're transporting any animal from PG to up north, you will have to have a transport permit, so that you can present it to the officers, so that officers know that it's not illegal wildlife trafficking happening, but it's legit at a rehab center transporting animals for the benefit of the wildlife. So those are some of the permit differences and licenses that we will see coming on board with the new bill that we're proposing. When it comes to offenses and penalties, I'm really happy to say that we will see an increase. For example, the general offenses, currently it's $500 to $1,000, which is pretty much nothing. So the bill is proposing that we have a fine of 30,000, of up to 30,000, or 5 years imprisonment, and this will be for general offenses. We will have failure to report. So if you are see a crime and you don't report it, then you can also be charged up to 30,000 as well. Wildlife cruelty, which is not really inserted or embedded in the current legislation, is now going to be added, well, is now added to the bill. And again, it is up to 30,000 or 5 years imprisonment. Corporate liability, again, it's non-existent currently, and it's something that we are adding into the bill. Strict liability is non-existent and is being added as well to the bill. So these are some of the changes when it comes to offenses and penalties, and in the next slide you will get a snapshot of what is it that we are talking about specifically. For example, we are going to have a penalty schedule, meaning that currently if you are found in possession of a jaguar, let's say, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, the offense is still $500 to $1,000. That's so you can have 1,000, let's say, for argument's sake, 1,000 jaguars, and the magistrate can still decide to charge you only $500. This time it will not be that way. So this only gives you a snapshot because this will give you, this has another back end to it, in the sense that it has a whole formula and how you go calculating the penalties. But let's say for one jaguar or one part of a jaguar, if it's killed or you kill the jaguar, the fine is up to $25,000. And it goes for pumas, margays, and it has a long list. These are just some of them. Wild peccary, scarlet macas, deer species, and then other native species or any offenses is up to $10,000. When it comes to this as well, one of the things that we've learned is that, for example, we will have whole individuals as the animal itself, but we also have a penalty schedule for parts. So one jaguar tooth will be will be charged. Let me give you an idea as to one. So if you are caught, for example, so if you kill a jaguar, the penalty can be up to 25,000. If you're found in possession of a jaguar skin or pellet, you can be charged up to 15,000. If you are found with one jaguar tooth, it will be 2,000. So if you're found with two, you're going to multiply that by 2, and so it will be, your fine will be 4,000, and so it will increase. So for example, the situation we had in San Pedro, where one person was caught with 99 croc teeth. So each croc teeth has a value of, when you multiply, it will be of $500. So I'm not really good in math. So $500 times those 99, that would be your penalty value that you would have to pay to the court. And so all of these things will have a penalty. So if you're found in possession of any of these or you kill them, then there's a fine. For just killing them, there's a fine for possession as well. So these are some of the things that we've increased we've added when it comes to offenses, because we did realize that the penalty section is really weak. Because again, $500 to $1,000 is nothing for most people, so they're willing to pay that and continue hunting and keeping parts. But that is one of the most important things that we are strengthening in the legislation or the bill that we're proposing when it comes to these. So yeah, another part that we're including, like I mentioned, is indigenous and community participation. So the bill is proposing agreements with communities under customary land tenure. We're also adding recognition of traditional practices that align with conservation, and we're also encouraging community-led wildlife monitoring when it comes to these things, which is something basically like a citizen science that we're embedding within the bill, because that is something that is lacking. And we must agree, as the Forest Department, we cannot be everywhere, so we need the help. And so if we can encourage these community-led wildlife monitoring, then that is something that we are willing to take into consideration. Again, welfare and captive wildlife, it will regulate the zoos, the sanctuaries, the rehab centers, the pet shops that we see. Again, one of the things that is not within the legislation. We've just currently adopted, because all the other Central American countries have done it, is to prohibit circuses and wildlife shows. But it's not really within the legislation. So this time we're making it very clear within the bill that those are things that we're not going to allow. So no circuses that have any wildlife or any wildlife shows will be allowed to enter within the country. We will also be setting welfare standards for captive animals. Those things will be embedded within the bill. Currently, we're just saying, well, this is what you can, or these are the standards, and people still don't follow these standards because, again, it's not within the legislation. It just means that obviously you don't have a permit to hold these animals, so it's illegal. But there's no standards when it comes to now allowing you to keep them. So this is something that we're including, and we have included within the proposed bill. Also, requirements for management plans for rehabilitation facilities. It is within the current MOU, but again, because the MOU isn't legally binding, it's not something that's always done. But now, making it legally binding, it will show that even the rehab facilities will now need to have management plan in place for the different species, and for their center, which is also something good, because it allows people to understand and appreciate a little bit more what these rehab centers are doing and how they help wildlife. So, key takeaway from the presentation is that the current bill that we're proposing has a broader scope and stronger governance. It will be data driven when it comes to wildlife management. It won't be haphazard. So that is a strong component that we've added within the proposed bill. We've expanded the permitting process. We've expanded enforcement. We have heavy penalties for wildlife crime now, and we are recognizing indigenous and scientific collaboration, something that is really needed and something that is lacking in the current legislation that we have. So with that, thank you for your attention. I don't know, Gian, if we're allowing questions or concerns or queries, but if we're not, then you can write it in the chat and you can forward it to me, and then I can I can answer their questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Victoria. We do have one question, and maybe I don't know if you can see the chat. If you can take that quickly. It says, I noticed the wildlife cruelty marks are not defined. How then can that fit in with a person who is still hunting the wildlife, even if it's a minor offense? Like not having a big enough cage, like the one where you mentioned to have a park legally. I don't know if that's something you can answer.
Okay, yes. Like I mentioned, this is just giving you a snapshot of what will be in the bill. You will need to read the bill to know what exactly it says when it comes to wildlife cruelty. So we are going to define all of those. Trust me, we are defining all of those things. And like I mentioned to you, when it comes to adding the regulations for minimum standards and so on, I didn't go in detail with it. I'm just mentioning that those will now be added within the current bill. So it will be there.
All right. Well, with that, I think this has been a very, very informative presentation. Thank you very much, Ms. Victoria, for this presentation. I think the bill is well on its way, and I think it's covering a lot of important things that needs to be there. So thank you very much, Ms. Victoria. And moving on, we did have one presentation before lunch. However, we will jump straight into lunch so that we are on time back at 12:45. So we will have a small raffle just to encourage you to be on time. We'll be here. We'll leave the meeting open and you can be here at 12:45. But just right before you go, remember, we still have this raffle that Matt sent, and maybe that can be sent one more time in the chat so that you can start filling those out. Again, for the participants who do fill that out, we will have a small prize for you guys, a small raffle. So again, we have the survey that has already been sent, and then we will have another small little raffle at 12:45.
Yep.
So with that, if no one has any questions, we'll jump straight into lunch. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see each other at 12:45 sharp.
And check out that.
Good afternoon, everybody. So now I'll be going ahead and sharing our next presentation. That will be outbreaks of concern and the importance of One Health to all. And the two outbreaks that Dr. Isabel will be talking about here are the New World screwworm outbreak and the outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza. So let me just go ahead and share my screen.
Hello, thank you for joining. My name is Dr. Isabel, and I will give you a brief overview of New World screwworm, plus an outbreak of concern, and why One Health and animal health matters to us all. So I will ever so briefly give you an update on New World screwworm with data provided to us kindly by BAA, Belize Agricultural Health Authority, who sadly could not be with us today. So I will be sharing those data. And then I have to talk about highly pathogenic avian influenza cases in southern Guatemala as a looming threat on our horizon, and end with surprising One Health connections, the connections of road safety, roaming animals, and garbage management, making One Health important to us all. So to begin with, here the data kindly shared by BAA. In week 41 of 2025, the total number of cases of New World screwworm reported in Belize now is 652. You can see that still the majority of cases, or very much the majority of cases, over 50%, are in dogs. We do have 140 cases now reported in cattle, and then also 76 in pigs, going down the list to so far 3 cases that have been reported in exotic animals, in howler monkeys, and if you look at that table on the bottom right here, you can see a bit the distribution by species in the different regions of Belize. So central, north, and south. You can see that there are a total of 250 cases in the central region, only 56 so far in the north, and 346 cases most reported in the south, where this entire outbreak started in December last year. So that's the latest numbers shared. Here is a map, again shared with us by Baha, a listing showing you the dots on the map where the cases in week 41 were reported. You can see that there is countrywide distribution from north to south and east to west in that week. And on the next slide, you see the accumulated cases, so all of the cases. And again, you can see that distribution described in the first slide, where the majority of cases is in the southern region, and there's fewer cases still to this date in the northern region. So that is the latest data on New World screwworm. So what to do about New World screwworm? The prevention of infestations and immediate response in case of infestations are absolutely key. So all wounds on animals have to be prevented to begin with and treated immediately and daily. Animals should be checked daily, and any suspects need to be reported to BAHA immediately. So in order to protect us humans, and I didn't emphasize it on the graphs, it also showed the 2 human cases that have so far been reported in Belize. Thank goodness we have not had more human cases yet, but in order to prevent that from happening, we need to protect our animals so that this horrible parasite doesn't get to spread any further. We encourage you to please check out, we just created a video that is shared on our YouTube channel for Belize Wildlife Clinic, just on New World screwworm. And you can also contact us with any questions, as there is a lot of material provided by Baha on prevention and what to look for in your animals that we can share with you. Hence, we have already, and we'll share it again. And so this brings me to my second brief topic, and that is avian influenza in southern Guatemala. This is an article that was shared on September 27th, and the key findings were that there was an outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPAI in short, of the H5N1 variant in wild birds in the Livingston municipality. The outbreak started in the end of August. There were 347 birds that were susceptible, and 114 cases and deaths were reported. So the birds that were affected were part of a conservation effort, and they most likely had contact with migratory birds at shared water sources. The control measures implemented included disinfection as well as culling movement restrictions, quarantine, and surveillance. Thankfully, no cases were found in commercial poultry farms or backyard flocks, and also there was no evidence of human cases. The high mortality rates among these ducks and species affected highlighted the threat to wildlife and conservation efforts. This outbreak was confined in this rural community and contained with a monitoring radius of 10 kilometers around the outbreak. However, there is this listed external risk where migratory birds will, of course, continue to move through Central America and continue to spread the risk of transmission of this disease, including across borders. So we have to add here that the current public health risk remains low, thanks to the swift containment, as well as the negative results in domestic birds. However, this situation highlights ongoing vulnerabilities. Why this is so concerning? So again, we shared a video about a year and a half ago on avian influenza and HPAI and why this is under observation worldwide and a high risk. And the most concerning reason is that this disease, viral disease, has the potential to turn into the next global human pandemic. So we will talk about this some more and share with you also some more informational videos about this disease in our next live. Do not hesitate again to ask any questions in the discussion or email us. And most importantly, how do you stay safe? We can already tell you this. Do not touch any dead or possibly sick birds. Be aware that this disease could affect your domestic birds as well as wild birds. So watch out for signs of disease, mostly respiratory disease, but it could also just be sudden death without any signs in your birds. Also look out for die-offs in wild birds. You could find dead wild birds. Please do report these and do not touch. Do not touch, especially without personal protective equipment or training, because how we humans would contract this potentially dangerous disease would be by contact with dead birds. And this brings me, so this was just a short snippet on this very recent case of avian influenza, highly pathogenic, very close to our borders. And now to the third topic, which is a repeat for many of our certified ambassadors as a surprising One Health link. What do roaming animals have to do with One Health? Roaming animals will contract diseases while they roam. They will bring those diseases back to you. But there is also this impact shown with these pictures, my very personal example, because the white car here was my friend's car, and my mother was also in this car at the time of the accident. And the tragedy is that my friend indeed died in this accident. What does this have to do with One Health and animals? This accident was caused by a roaming horse on the Western Highway. And we know of multiple accidents caused by animals that can be serious to the vehicles, to the humans involved. In this case, this accident caused 1 human death and 4 severely injured humans in the hospital with broken bones. The only, in quotation marks, good news to me personally was that my 79-year-old mother, who was seated right here, survived this accident and came out alive. But this is my surprising link here, roaming animals. So caring for even roaming animals saves human lives, not just the animals, but also us. So why One Health matters to us all? Because of course, these zoonotic diseases are likely to turn into a next global pandemic, and we can prevent this by not having inappropriate interactions with wildlife. Animal health impacts all of us, regardless of liking animals or owning animals, because these diseases come to us not just via animals, but also through the environment. One Health and animal health is crucially important to provide us with safe food. Unhealthy environments lead to shortened lifespans, not just in animals, but very much so in humans. Garbage management or lack thereof causes disease for animals and humans. It attracts animals, causes conflict, and keeping animals from roaming protects their health, protects our human health, and our road safety as well. What we hope to accomplish is to reduce these risks of inadequate interactions and disease transmission, and ultimately protect livelihoods, biodiversity, and One Health alike. So One Health involves us all, from the general public to the professionals, enforcement, scientists, and healthcare workers, and we all have to work together. One Health connects and impacts us all, so check out our website, our YouTube channel, our social media, and remember, if you see wildlife in trouble or wildlife is giving you trouble, call our hotline at 615-5159. Thank you very much.
All right, big thank you to Dr. Isabel for that enlightening presentation just now. And now we'll be moving on into our next one, which is from Sergeant Holly Vasquez, one of our hero nominees. And this presentation will be on the benefits of the Wildlife Ambassador Program to law enforcement in Belize.
Good afternoon, one and all. It is truly an honor and a humbling experience to be here with you today as we celebrate the 7th anniversary of the Wildlife Ambassador Program and its very first virtual conference. On behalf of the Belize Police Department, I extend warm greetings to all partners, law enforcement officers, certified ambassadors, and dedicated civilians who continue to make this program a true success story. Since the program's inception in 2018, it has grown into a national movement that bridges enforcement, education, and conservation. Today, we celebrate not just years of progress, but a shared commitment to protecting Belize's wildlife and ensuring safety and health of our communities through the One Health approach. From the perspective of the Belize Police Department, our collaboration with the Wildlife Ambassador Program has been nothing short of transformative. Today, we proudly have 225 certified officers, with 200 more scheduled to be certified in the coming months. This achievement reflects our strong institutional support for the wildlife protection and our growing awareness of how conservation and law enforcement go hand in hand. The impact of this training is visible in the field. Officers are now more proactive in addressing illegal pet possession, confiscating unlawfully kept wildlife, and managing human-wildlife conflicts, particularly the safe capture and relocation of snakes and crocodiles. Equally important, our officers now have a deeper understanding of the One Health concept, recognizing the vital link between human, animal, and the environmental. This awareness has improved our ability to protect public health and safety and to respond to risks associated with zoonotic diseases and the illegal wildlife trade. We have also seen a meaningful shift in how officers view animal welfare. Many now understand that cruelty towards animals can be an early warning sign of future violence towards people. Recognizing this connection strengthens our enforcement efforts and help us build a more safer and compassionate community. The vision of the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic, wildlife conservation and sustainable development through collaboration, aligns perfectly with the mission of the Belize Police Department. Together, we are protecting life in all its forms and ensuring that conservation is not an isolated effort, but a shared national duty. Our mission as law enforcement officers extends beyond maintaining peace and order. It also includes ensuring that Belize's natural heritage is preserved for the future generation. Together, our partnership with the clinic, we have built a foundation where enforcement supports education and education strengthens enforcement. As we look to the future, I believe our next step is to formalize this partnership in a joint wildlife task force, a coordinated network that brings together certified ambassadors, law enforcement officers, and partner agencies. This task force would focus on combating the illicit trafficking of wildlife, conducting rescue and referral operations, and strengthening deterrence measures through visible enforcement and community outreach. I envision certified ambassadors contributing on a rotational volunteer basis, working alongside officers to respond to wildlife emergencies, gather intelligence, and promote public awareness. This will not only enhance our enforcement capacity, but also strengthen the national spirit of shared responsibility. To ensure sustainability, I am personally committed as both a police officer and a law student to advance a legal framework that will anchor this collaboration in law. This framework will designate the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic as a central authority for wildlife referrals and task force coordination. Such legislation would provide clarity, structure, and permanence to our joint efforts, ensuring that conservation enforcement remains consistent, credible, and compassionate. As we celebrate this milestone, let us remember that conservation is not the job of one agency or one profession. It is a collective duty. The Belize Police Department stands ready to continue this partnership, guided by the principle of the One Health approach and the vision of the sustainable development through collaboration. Let this 7th anniversary not only mark how far we have come, but also inspire how far we can go together by creating a joint wildlife task force and supporting the legal framework. We can ensure that our enforcement, education, and compassion work hand in hand together to protect Belize's wildlife, our communities, and our shared future. Thank you, and may this conference continue to strengthen the bonds between law, enforcement, and conservation, ensuring that protecting Belize's wildlife today secures a more sustainable tomorrow.
All right. A big thank you goes out to Sergeant Vasquez as well. We are really looking forward to this collaboration. And we think that it's wonderful that we are able to get the police department a little more involved in the protection of our country's wildlife, indeed. So this takes us on into our final presentation for the moment. Or sorry, our next presentation for the moment, which will be by Mr. Gian Vasquez regarding leptospirosis, another outbreak of concern here in Belize, on worldwide actually, just because of how readily this disease can jump between different hosts and how much people can be susceptible to it. So let's listen to our next presentation on an important zoonosis, leptospirosis.
Hello and thank you for watching this other One Health Important Zoonosis video. Today we'll be talking about leptospirosis, which is a globally important zoonosis. So for a little introduction, leptospirosis is a zoonotic bacterial disease that occurs in diverse areas, but especially in research poor populations. And due to heat and moisture in the tropics, that is very conducive to this disease. But it does not only occur in the tropics, as we will see in just a bit. It can occur everywhere, even in temperate areas during the summer. This disease is caused by a spirochete bacterium that causes a range of symptoms to humans, from mild fevers and aches to renal failures, hemorrhages, and meningitis. So it can be misdiagnosed for other things that look like the flu or malaria or dengue, but it can, however, get fatal and lead to multiple organ failure and can lead to deaths. But of course, there's no specific symptom that is characteristic for this disease. Rodents are usually the reservoirs, and though asymptomatic, they will shed the bacteria into the water and soil, and that would cause a direct route of transmission to other mammals or to humans. However, it's very important that the epidemiology of this disease, it varies a lot according to location or according to which part of the world you are, according to environmental conditions. So rats, of course, are not the only reservoirs. There are many other animals, such as mice, dogs, cows, that are responsible for spreading this bacteria as well. And they shed it asymptomatically through their urine for it be years or all their life. Right? So whenever an animal sheds it and is not affected, that makes it a reservoir. Just a little map here in terms of this study done by Costa et al. That shows that there are over 1 million cases worldwide, and that can lead up to 60,000 deaths per year due to this disease. And again, I just want to point out here, if you notice, if I point out the belt of the tropics, this is where this disease occurs mainly. Right, so of course the heat and the moisture is something that would lead to more cases of leptospira. But like I mentioned earlier, up in the north and in the south, there are still some cases due to the fact, well, this exists everywhere. And if, for example, if you do summer sports in the temperate regions, this could lead to exposure as well. In terms of transmission, it's usually through an asymptomatic host who will transmit it through their urines if they are infected to soil and water, and then that could lead to infection to humans and other wild or domestic animals. So we're talking about wildlife or livestock and pets, right? And I will also introduce here, well, the most common symptoms that can happen for human infection. Again, it can be something as simple as a fever and aches, but if it is not detected and treated early enough, which is already a big difficulty, it can lead to more multiple organ deficiency, such as renal, hepatic, and pulmonary failures. So it's really, it can really depend, and it's really hard to detect. So uh, it highlights the importance of One Health and keeping us safe from this disease, right? I look up a little bit of symptoms in animals. Again, it's very non-specific. It won't have a one symptom fits all for all the animals. However, it is well known, for example, for livestock animals, so such as cows and sheep. You will have an increased case of abortion, stillbirth, infertility, and another thing would be is that it damage production as well. So milk will decrease, milk production will decrease, and sometimes you might see slightly red stains in the milk. But again, it varies here. You can pause the video and take a look at different ways that animals can be affected. This is from CDC, and you can go ahead and look up any materials that they may have as well that helps you. However, talk to your veterinarian if you suspect your pets or your livestock has any new symptoms that you might not be aware of. Always keep in touch with your vet. So how to prevent this disease? So again, it is a disease that spreads through the environment, so through water and soil. So keeping away from water that might be contaminated with animal urine, especially, and this is how a lot of the cases, well, they spike after floods and hurricanes and or heavy rainfalls. This is where you would get a lot of cases in the tropics. For example, if you have a hurricane here in Belize and you go out barefoot and you're swimming in the flooded waters, right? This is a perfect conduit for you to get infected with this disease. And of course, not only this disease, there are many other diseases that you can get while swimming in flooded waters, right? So yeah, avoid contact with animals that may be infected. If you suspect a dog, a cat, or pets or livestock, you know, take the precautions, protect yourself, use proper gear for coming in contact with those animals, especially the urine. But of course, other bodily fluids can anything regarding to blood or placental excrements could also host some of these bacteria as well. Take precaution before water recreation activities. If you take part in water recreation like swimming, boating, fishing, you do want to be aware. I mean, probably here in Belize we don't have warnings according to region, but you try to take your precautions as much as possible. And if your area is infected in terms of gardening and outdoor activities dealing with soil, this is another way that you can can be risky. High-risk workers like veterinary professional farmers who are high risk and have high exposure. Well, all we can do is advise you to wash your hands frequently, wear proper PPE. And in some countries there are the vaccination available. So that would be if possible to get vaccinated against this disease. However, most of the vaccinations, it covers only one of the main species of Leptospira interrons, but it's already very helpful. It's the most common and highest virulent species. there also exists vaccination against leptospirosis for animals, for your livestock animals. So if your animals have a risk of getting contaminated with this disease, that would be something that would be advised. Control the rodent population, as they are one of the main reservoir species that can infect us and our animals, right? So talking about rats, talking about mice, they are one of the most highest reservoir species around the world. So that would be wise. In terms of treatment, if the infection is detected early enough, it may be treated with antibiotics such as doxycycline or amoxicillin. However, must mention here that treatment or detection and diagnosis is one of the most difficult things when it comes to this disease. The gold standard for diagnosis in leptospirosis is paired microagglutination test, which basically uses live antigen bacteria to react with blood or serum from the patient. However, you need to be able to have that high level of expertise in terms of keeping bacterial cultures or living antigens in order for you to be able to do this. So not any lab can use it can do this, right? The other highly acceptable test would be molecular detection, so PCR through DNA test. Well, of course, I mean, in those low research countries, you don't have this available as much available as in other countries. There is some rapid diagnostic tests. However, these are restricted to detect immunity, and then immunity comes 2 weeks after you get infected. So it's a bit tricky. It probably does not detect the disease early enough, and it does work for specific or select species of Leptospira, and it all depends which species is going around in the country or in the area. This is just a quick little view of how the cycle of infection occurs, right? So you have an acute stage where in the first week is where you would have most of these symptoms, right? And it would not appear in your urine, for example, until after in week 2, right? So it all depends, and this is the most important one to see. This IgM is the one that we usually test for in these immunological tests. However, this occurs from week 2 and then it decreases over time. Only the IgG stays for years in the blood. So that's why you can detect through a microagglutination test if you have IgMs or IgGs, which would tell you, more or less the time frame of infection. But again, blood, for example, you can only culture it in the early stages, but afterwards you can only culture it from the urine. So it really it's very motile. It would move from the blood from the first week or 2 into urine. So why is this relevant to One Health? Well, it is a disease that can infect the 3 domains of One Health, so animals, humans, and the environment through the water and soil. And hence, protecting or controlling animals, in this case, controlling reservoir species such as rodents, and protecting our animals by vaccination and proper care would protect us as well from this disease. Another thing that is important in terms of One Health is that it affects the tropics and can have a greater toll in low resource country. So it affects disproportionately. All right. So this is what I have for you today. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, you can make them in the comment section below. Thank you very much.
For that survey. So actually, I will give time to Max and Dr. I, who will be Dr. I actually will be discussing some of these questions and a bit of the questions that you made on the survey. So I'll just pass the mic here to Dr. I.
All right, thank you so much. And we will give people more time to answer that survey as well. But I wanted to take the time to try to respond to the questions that were already placed there. Thank you so much. And the first question was, how significant is the risk of reverse zoonosis in wildlife populations? And what measures should conservation efforts take to prevent human-originated pathogens from infecting endangered species? So thank you so much for that question. That risk is indeed quite existent. And my prime example I use for that would be tuberculosis, of which we have had cases in humans, yet we have not had diagnosed cases in our primates that are a species of high concern that could acquire this from humans. Another example of a reverse zoonosis would be yellow fever that has repeatedly come from human populations into primate populations. In the 1950s, that is what led to the almost extinction of our howler monkey population. So what measures to take to prevent this is biosafety, using personal protective equipment, only touching if absolutely required, and only doing so with the proper training and protective equipment, aka calling in professionals to deal with those situations, to not take any risk. So I hope that answers that question. Feel free to respond in the chat if you want to hear more examples. The second question that we received was, will PWRC implement volunteer services to have certified ambassadors to assist in trainings to wider public to relieve the burden from PWRC staff? Again, thank you for the question. Short answer is yes, we are working on training trainers so that we can indeed get relief. We cannot get relief from providing the professional expertise and response and situation assessment, but we are certainly looking to involve more persons to assist in trainings, for example. Again, I hope that answered that question. And the third question here was, how can people get to know more about it, I assume the program, without necessarily having to physically be there? I know through Zoom meetings, but what about people who aren't technology savvy? I have a lot of empathy for that as a technologically not very savvy person myself. But we do have multiple ways that you can get to know more. We do have a YouTube channel that is Belize Wildlife Clinic. On that YouTube channel, we have playlists. Those playlists include one that is called WAP presentations, I believe, or Wildlife Ambassador Program presentations. We also have a playlist for zoonotic diseases where we have, I believe, 8 or 9 different diseases with their own presentations. We would also highly encourage you to go to our website and find the Wildlife Ambassador page there and fill out the registration. We do also have a Google Classroom where you can do about 85% of this training online. There is around 15 hours worth of recorded presentations that all have their own quizzes with them, and we can track it online. So there's many, many ways that you can learn more about this without having to be right here at our facilities. Again, do feel free to contact us via email or put it here in the chat. After this meeting, however, email is probably the best way. It's raining pretty hard. I hope you can hear. And those were the questions that we had received and seen so far. And I want to thank you all for answering that survey. We will give you more time and take account at the end of the day. And we'll also already encourage you to look at our exit survey that is shared in the chat. And we will have 2 more raffles for those. However, the results may come a little later. With that being said, we should actually go to our last item on the conference agenda. Yeah, but we wanted to give people some more time to answer these. So I'm thinking as soon as we wrap up, maybe people are not interested anymore. But we want your feedback. Or how many do we have? Did everybody fill it out? Hey, that's a really good number. Got a few more. Okay, just introduce that our next presenter is Max himself, computers, who will be talking to you guys about road safety tips. It's a very important topic in terms of taking care of wildlife. So I'll actually just give Max the time here, who will be speaking to us about road safety tips. Right, Max.
All right, good day again, everybody. I hope that everyone is enjoying the conference so far. And we are running up on our time here before too long, so I'll get right into it. Road safety is one of the huge One Health risks that we have here in Belize. We all, I'm sure, have loved ones or know people that have gone through some tough times. Road safety issue. And we do see some very reckless drivers on our roads, so we always advise caution. But on that note, I do have some tips to share with you guys just to be safer around wildlife when you're on the road and be safer drivers overall. So here at BWRC, about 30% of our patients do come from road injuries. So that's a really high number. We do definitely see the need for safer drivers. So the issue being that roads do pass through a lot of our rural areas, through protected areas, through natural habitats, and wildlife and drivers do share a lot of the same space. Animals cross roads often to access food or water, to look for mates, or to find shelter. And especially as we develop more into rural areas, we see a lot more of this issue taking place. Even like on the New Pine Ridge Road this year, beautiful jaguar was knocked down. So we can see directly the link between rural expansion and this issue. So the top way to prevent this would be to just slow down, guys. You really want to slow down and stay alert. The most effective way to prevent these collisions is just taking your time, especially when you're driving around curves or bends in the road, where visibility is limited, where you're in rural areas or forested zones that you don't really know where something might pop out from, as well as before or after bridges, as many wildlife species do use these as natural crossing points. And of course, at night, a lot of our species here in Belize are more active and likely to be crossing roads. And remember also, the faster you go, the higher the force of impact will be and the more time it will take for you to come to a stop. The faster you go, the less time you have before you hit the animal and the harder you're going to hit it. So really slowing down is the key way to prevent these issues, or if you do not something for it to be less harmful to both you and or the animal. Yeah, it's a huge issue as well, just going too fast. Another one would be use of good lights and visibility. So you do want to use your high beams where it is safe and appropriate. They help to detect eye shine from animals from further away. But if you do detect eye shine, you do immediately want to switch to your low beam. The high beams can cause some animals to kind of become trapped. We all might have heard the saying like a deer in the headlights. That's because a lot of animals will just see these lights coming and kind of freeze. If you do spot an animal, like I said, you want to lower your beams to avoid startling or blinding it, and you want to immediately start to slow down, even if the animal might be on the side of the road. If the animal does move, then you're good to carry on cautiously. But if it doesn't move, you want to approach very slowly, gently blow your horn, and maybe flash your lights a bit. And often this will lead the animal to, run off of the roadway as well, or move out of harm's way. You always want to watch for movement, day or night. Movement is kind of the easiest thing to see from far, and that's how we would notice animals a large amount of the time. So any movement or flickering reflections that you see, say if an animal passes in front of the reflectors or gives a glance at you, you see a little flick of eye shine. You want to be cautious around such situations. And you want to be particularly vigilant towards all of this around dusk or dawn when visibility is very low and animals are likely to be on the move at these hours as well. There are some misconceptions about safe conditions. I know I just mentioned dusk and dawn being the risky times, but you might be surprised by just the sheer amount of accidents that occur on straight roadways during good visibility, dry roads and all. This is due to a higher speed and a lack of caution at this point. So drivers do tend to speed up in good conditions, and they might lower their guard, be a little less vigilant. They feel like it's all clear, and this is when tragedy can strike as well. And yeah, the takeaway here being to always remain cautious, even if it is a nice clear day out and you're driving down a straight stretch. You always want to kind of keep your eyes on the road, but also look a bit left and right and make sure something's not popping out in front of you. Another key item would be managing garbage and attractants along the roadside. A lot of people here, thankfully in Belize, littering is a lot better than it used to be, but it does still happen quite a bit. So any garbage on the roadside, even organic material, say it's a banana peel or something like that, will attract certain animals. Certain animals might attract others. It becomes a whole food chain right on the side of our roads, leading to, again, a lot higher incidences of road fatalities to animals or drivers crashing into stuff. Food scraps can attract animals such as raccoons, birds, all of this, and like I say, it can start a whole food chain. So the takeaway here being that clean roadsides do help to keep animals safe and also protect drivers' lives as well. Next up would be understanding animal behavior. Remember to always expect the unexpected when it comes to this kind of situation. You never know what might be popping out. You never know when an animal will decide to double back when it's halfway across the road or something like that. They might freeze, they might dart out suddenly after being frozen in a place. So you want to, as soon as you see an animal, slow down well in advance and be prepared for any kind of unpredictable movement. Even if the animal has left the road, you never know if it's just frightened and agitated and turns right around and runs back across to where it came from. So yeah, always be cautious. And a last point on this in knowing animal behavior is that right now it is the rainy season. Snakes and turtles and crocodiles are all a lot more on the move right now. So you do want to be vigilant and according to that, try to avoid injuring these animals when they're just trying to change their habitats. And then comes reporting and supporting conservation work. We do have some great apps these days, such as iNaturalist, where you can report and kind of help us to identify hotspots for animal road collisions, and then proper safety precautions can be made. Then there's also UB's Belize Roadkill project that you can be a part of. Or, of course, you can always call us here at the BWRC or call the Forest Department if you need any assistance or advice in this matter. And in closing, we have incredible biodiversity here in Belize. It's what makes our country so special, but it also means that animals are always at risk, especially as we develop more into rural areas. So you really want to be vigilant. You want to, driving is a huge responsibility for all of us that get on the road. So you want to drive slowly, stay alert, respect wildlife, and if you do see something, say something. Warn other people, and you might prevent a tragedy that way as well. Together, we can prevent wildlife collisions and reduce them. We can protect our native species, and we can make the road safer for humans and animals alike, guys. So let's all do our part. All right. And that would be that for my road safety topic.
And here we are coming to the most exciting part.
What fun.
Right.
All right. So thank you very much, Max, for those really great tips. I mean, it's really important that we take care on the roads, not only for our animals, but our humans as well. I mean, we want to be safe out there. So moving on with our agenda, up next, we have the Wildlife Hero Awards opening remarks by Mr. Lionel Requena. So we will be preparing that video. He couldn't be present today, but he left some words of remarks for the opening of this Wildlife Hero Award.
Good afternoon. It is my distinct honor and privilege to address you today for Belize's first Wildlife Hero Award, a recognition of the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program exemplary work under the stewardship of the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic. The Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program is a flagship program that continues to train Belizeans countrywide to be ambassadors of wildlife. To be an ambassador of wildlife in Belize certainly is a unique privilege and an opportunity that people have to coexist with nature. It is important that we continue to live in harmony, striking a balance with nature and development. And it is imperative that we continue to be at peace with nature. In 2018, when the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program initially started with funding from the Protected Areas Conservation Trust and the World Wildlife Fund, it is noteworthy to indicate that that initial investment by those two agencies was critical for the initiation of the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program. Then there was a gap. There was no funding, and in 2021, during the peak of COVID-19, we issued a call for proposals, and we were happy to receive a proposal from the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic to expand and to continue the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program, a program which has been co-financed by GIZ Selva Maya project, which has enabled the training of over 600 Belizeans as wildlife ambassadors. Trained ambassadors, wildlife ambassadors include police officers, soldiers, youths, private sector individuals, community leaders, indigenous leaders, and Belizeans from Corozal to Toledo. The Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program is a flagship program, which is not only recognized locally and nationally, but it is internationally recognized by the Global Environment Facility, In fact, the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic in 2023, because of the resounding success of our collaborative efforts and the funding through the UNDP Jeff Small Grants Program, and PAC, and of course, GIZ and WWF, the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program was recognized by the Global Environment Facility through its Inclusive Challenge Program. Really a competitive program which was open worldwide. And nominations were received and managed by the GEF based in Washington, D.C. And we were so happy to note that the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic, Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program, was the recipient of the GEF Inclusive Challenge Award. That award was presented because of the bold demonstration of the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program commitment to investing and preserving and protecting our wildlife in Belize. It is imperative to note that the Belize Wildlife Ambassador Program continues to leap from success to success. In fact, success breeds success, and the work of the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic in establishing a 24-hour hotline for the reporting of injured or wildlife emergencies is really another excellent step towards ensuring that we coexist with nature in Belize. And it is imperative to note that the recognition of the first ever Belize wildlife hero is yet another step in the right direction. It is my understanding that 15 nominees were submitted to the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic, and indeed all wildlife ambassadors must be commended for their commitment to the training program, but equally important is their day-to-day interaction with wildlife. And today, we recognize wildlife heroes who have gone beyond the call of duty. They have demonstrated leadership, tenacity, but also action in preserving and driving our relationship with nature, protecting, investing in our wildlife protection programs. We recognize that Belize continues to be a shining example wherein we coexist with nature, and we need to continue to invest in people and of course invest in nature. And when we invest in both, we will always have positive returns. As our national anthem mentions, we're blessed with wealth untold, and that wealth untold can be lost if we do not preserve and protect and reconcile our relationship with nature. The recognition of the wildlife heroes today is exactly a bold step forward. We congratulate the Belize Wildlife Referral Clinic for their steadfast leadership in partnership with the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Climate Change, the Forest Department, and the National Biodiversity Office, agencies who are working tirelessly to ensure that we coexist with nature and that we continue to focus, to be laser focused, investing in the One Health approach. And so the wildlife hero is an important distinction, recognition, and we congratulate all recipients today. And it is to recognize individuals who have contributed to wildlife preservation and have demonstrated positive role models. And these individuals have invested in training, preventing human-wildlife conflict, biodiversity loss. And it is imperative to note that your work continues to inspire the next generation of wildlife ambassadors. In closing, I thank you for the privilege and the opportunity to deliver these brief remarks, and we encourage you to continue to be laser focused as we continue to upscale and invest in our human development priorities. It is only by investing in people and in nature that truly we will continue to have Belize a beautiful and vibrant country, leapfrogging its sustainable development goals and priorities, one community at a time, one project at a time. I thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Requena. Thank wonderful words and highlighting the importance of this Wildlife Hero Award, right? Like you mentioned, it highlights, the initiatives of these individual persons across the country, making a difference for wildlife in Belize. So, without further ado, what we shall be doing is we shall be presenting the nominees for the Wildlife uh, Hero Awards, and we'll be asking Max to present who are the nominees for today. And
After that, we will share the winners.
That's right.
Surprise.
All right, guys. So we will be going through each and every one of our nominees one by one and giving you some of the reasons that they are fitting to be our wildlife heroes here. So let's get on into it. Here are our 15 nominees. All of them come with a great argument as to why they should be wildlife heroes, why they are going above and beyond in their communities to, make this happen, keep wildlife safe and reduce conflict and trafficking. These people play very different roles in their communities, but all of them, honestly, would be pretty deserving of this award. It was an incredibly difficult decision. And we did have the votes open, but as we had mentioned multiple times, these votes were not the only deciding factor here. So we also were weighing the people's merits, and many other factors went into this. All right, so first off, we have Sergeant Holly Vasquez, who you all might be familiar with from his presentation. And as a sergeant of police and a law student at the UWI, Sergeant Vasquez has brought a balance of enforcement, education, and advocacy to wildlife protection here in Belize. Since his induction into the Wildlife Ambassador Program back in 2022, he's dedicated himself to advancing the vision of conservation and sustainable development through collaboration. His passion for animals is both personal and professional, which drives Sergeant Vasquez to use his legal training to shape lasting solutions. Sergeant Holly Vasquez strives to be more than just an ambassador. He aims to be a bridge between law enforcement and conservation, thereby ensuring that protecting Belize wildlife today secures a more sustainable future tomorrow. And receiving such an award would recognize this commitment of Sergeant Vasquez's, as well as empower him to expand advocacy and champion stronger protection for our nation's wildlife. So moving on to our next nominee is Ms. Zaina El Jundi, sorry. She was a community ambassador at one of our latest workshops up in Corozal with the police. Ms. Jundi went out of her way to join this workshop, which kudos for that. And she has long dreamed of becoming a wildlife conservationist. She has recently focused her studies and recently earned an associate's degree in natural resource management. And since becoming a wildlife ambassador in July 2025, she's applied her knowledge to helping animals in need both at her school and in her backyard. So another great nominee, Ms. Zaina. We are on to our third, Miss Victoria Chi from the Belize Forest Department. We also had a wonderful presentation from Miss Chi earlier outlining some of these new rules. She has been nominated for the Hero Awards in recognition of her outstanding dedication and long-standing service to wildlife conservation. Miss Chi has been with the Forest Department for over 13 years. In that time, she has served as a wildlife program manager and as the officer in charge of the range offices. In these roles, she has consistently gone above and beyond, prioritizing responses to human-wildlife conflict, leading confiscations of wildlife kept illegally as pets, ensuring proper court procedures are followed, and personally transporting injured or orphaned wildlife to safety. What sets Ms. Chi apart is her unwavering commitment and willingness to respond at any time, demonstrating that her dedication to wildlife is not just a job, but a passion. Ms. Chi's enthusiasm, professionalism, and energy have made a great impact on the protection of Belize's wildlife, and she's joined many of our ambassador program workshops as a guest speaker for the Belize Forest Department. Our next candidate is Mr. Asher Adolphus of the Belize Police Department. Constable Adolphus has always loved animals and always looks out to help them in any way possible. He also was the highest performing student in his wildlife ambassador training workshop, again with the Corozal Police Department in July 2025. And we look forward to continuing to help Asher fuel his passion for animals and appreciate his service towards his community. Next, we have another officer, Mr. Ludwig Pau from the Corozal Police Formation. Constable Pau says that, well, being part of the Wildlife Ambassador program has opened his eyes on how the ecosystems work and are connected, and that certain diseases can wipe out species within Belize for good. The Wildlife Ambassador training made him get a deeper understanding of how partnerships with different organizations can help Belize in order to maintain their own identity of animals and people. Taking care of animals doesn't only guarantee our safety, but the safety of others, the environment, and the animals themselves. Now we have teacher Stephanie Dawson from St. Edmunds in Tikal. Ms. Dawson impressed the team as an enthusiastic follower before even becoming a wildlife ambassador in 2025 as part of our first workshop focusing on teachers. Ms. Dawson firmly believes that starting with one person, changes can begin. And with it, a chain reaction of events will most certainly follow. Ms. Dawson is advocating for the conservation of all wildlife because she understands that we are connected. We need them and they need us. Ms. Stephanie Dawson believes that change is necessary so that tomorrow our children and in turn their children can admire and take care of the wildlife our country has. And we believe that she is part of this change for future generations. And additionally, I might add that Ms. Dawson is currently writing a book focused on wildlife. Next, we have Ms. Ashley Penados. Ashley is a wildlife champion and a recently graduated tour guide. She passed her wildlife ambassador certification in April of this year with excellent marks as part of the tourism class with Mr. Javier Gutierrez. Ashley loves animals and she also loves sharing the message of what saving them. She loves sharing the message of saving them with others. And we are sure that she will continue to make a difference and continue to spread awareness. Now we have Mr. Pedro Bol of the Belize Audubon Society. Pedro Bol has long had a professional career in conservation prior to his participation in the Wildlife Ambassador Program. Pedro is very passionate about nature and wildlife from the smallest to the largest. From years of cooperation in different areas, we are certain that Mr. Bol will be a deserving recipient of this Hero Award 2025. Next, we have Mr. Julio Noble, a marine biologist. Mr. Noble dedicates himself to the protection and conservation of wildlife. He is a marine biologist and has had the privilege to be involved in the conservation of marine life in a variety of ways. This includes work with sea turtles, fish, corals, and much more. Mr. Noble joined the Wildlife Ambassador Program in March 2023 as a community member from Consejo. And we hope that he will continue to remain involved as an ambassador for conservation, coexistence, and One Health in his community. Now we have Mr. Marco Diaz. Marco grew up enjoying the outdoors with a passion for hiking and exploring wild places. It was in 2012 when he joined the FCD Ranger team, and there he found out that it was his right place to explore, adventure, and protect the wild flora and fauna around him at the same time. As part of the active ranger team at that time, Marco did hundreds of patrols against looting, logging, shate harvesting, hunting and poaching, and even gold mining. He raised through the ranks of the Rangers and eventually became the chief ranger and instructor. This was a great opportunity to train and inspire other leaders and with the same vision and mission. With the previous experience gained, Marco now leads numerous patrols. One of the most productive patrols that his team did was when they, for the first time, managed to secure and rescue 7 scarlet macaw chicks from the hands of poachers. Next, we have our candidate from the BRC, or Belize Raptor Center, who is actually here helping us today, Ms. Reina Choi. Reina has always tried to help where she can, whether that means educating others about wildlife or making sure an animal gets the care that it needs. Being a wildlife hero requires compassion and resilience because the challenges and losses can definitely be overwhelming. Yet every small act of care makes a difference, as Reina keeps demonstrating in her work at Belize Raptor Center. As the former Miss Earth Belize, Reina's advocacy for biodiversity conservation isn't something she has represented once. It's a commitment that she carries continuously, striving to help others to protect and value the natural world. Reina joined the ambassador program in 2023 and then again in 2025 in order to become a training assistant. Now we have Mr. Craig Gare, very near and dear to us here at the BWRC. While Craig is a community member, he has generously dedicated his time to multiple organizations over the years, constantly volunteering to support various causes, and his commitment to conservation extends across several groups, where he has quietly made countless meaningful contributions. From protecting macaws to rescuing baby tapirs or green iguanas and relocating snakes, the list goes on and on. Deeply respectful of his surroundings, Craig shows a great care for both wildlife and domestic animals, reflecting his strong values and dedication to protecting our environment, earning him this nomination as a wildlife hero. And now we have Mr. Eric Matz, also from the Friends for Conservation and Development. He has been a member of the team at FCD for 5+ years, and he has played a pivotal role in the scarlet macaw monitoring program in that time. He has not only directly protected this amazing species from poaching, but Eric Max has also opened the eyes of so many volunteers over the years to the beauty and fragility of the Chickaboo Forest Reserve and its amazing biodiversity. Now we have our 14th candidate for the Wildlife Hero Awards, Mr. Florencio Tech. Officer Tech joined the Wildlife Ambassador Program in October 2022. He was part of a small cohort out of that program who took an additional training in crocodile and snake conflict and response. As most of the program's trainees, he had little to no prior training. But shortly after that training, the hotline here at BWRC received a call, and we were informed that Constable Tech assisted with the relocation of a boa constrictor from a busy supermarket there in Belize City. The quick understanding and compassionate assistance avoided certain death for that snake and avoided risk for the community, which also set a great role model and led to his nomination for this award. And our final candidate for the Wildlife Hero Awards is Miss Debbie Galvez. Also attached to the Belize Police Department, Debbie Galvez participated in the Wildlife Ambassador Program alongside other officers in Belize City in 2022. where after initial hesitation, she demonstrated very strong interest and quickly became the highest performer in her cohort. Ms. Galvez immediately, after gaining awareness of the threats of illegal traffic and zoonotic diseases, showed her full commitment and dedication to enforcing wildlife law. Although now retired, Ms. Galvez remains a role model through her example, gaining her this nomination as a wildlife hero. So as we said, guys, it has been some very, very difficult decisions here. And I will hand it back to Gian to go ahead and announce our winners of this award.
All right. Thank you very much, Max, for presenting all those wonderful people who have been working throughout all these years for the care of our wildlife in Belize, right? So I would just announce, I do have to point out that, I have no role in choosing it. It was a combination of votes and decision here by the Wildlife Ambassador Program team, the BWRC team. So I will just be presenting 5 of these winners today selected by the team. All right. So first, let's see. Our first Wildlife Hero Award winner for 2025 is Sergeant Holly Vasquez. So round of applause if you can in the chat. Up next, we have Miss Victoria Chi from the Belize Forest Department. Congratulations. Up next, we have teacher Stephanie Dawson as one of our Wildlife Hero Awards for 2025. So round of applause. Up next, Mr. Marco Diaz, Ranger, receiving also a Wildlife Hero Award winner 2025. So round of applause. And last and finally, we have Reina Cho from one of our community ambassadors. She works at BRC and she is an aspiring WAP trainer and former Miss Earth Belize. So congratulations, Reina, congratulations all our winners for today's Wildlife Heroes, right? So, okay, we do have a runner-up and honorable mention, who is, all right, Eric, Max, and Craig here. So from FCD and Craig, who's one of our volunteers. So congratulations, everyone. Guys, are very important people in the conservation of wildlife in Belize. I mean, it wouldn't be the same without all these people. So congratulations to everyone. I know there are prizes. How could you help me out? How that works, Max?
Okay, guys. So for all of our 5 winners, and again, this was an incredibly difficult decision. So big thanks to all of you who were nominated. Continue doing the hard work, and trust me, we wish that we had prizes for all of you guys. But there are 5 winners. And again, Eric Max is our runner-up due to his just vast amount of votes and the work that he has put in. And our honorable mention, Mr. Craig Gare, just for all of the amazing work that he does for wildlife without a second thought. But now we are off to our winners. So we do have a bit of a gift package for you guys. Yeah, we need a signature. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so our first prize for this winner nomination will be our Ultra Challenge bags, if they'll show it all. Then we have a WRC coffee mug for the winners, for each one of them, as well as some stickers, a fuel voucher, a copy of Tenuk the Tapir, a great book by Lee McLaughlin for the Belize Zoo. And for one winner, Miss Stephanie Dawson, we also have a copy of How Taiga Became Fire Taiga, due to the fact that Miss Dawson is also in the process of writing a children's book concerning wildlife. And of course, a Wildlife Hero t-shirt for each of these winners as well. And now we come into the next part of our winner prizes, in which we have some vouchers to give away. But we will have a bit of a process here. So we do need all of these names on a wheel for a moment. Yeah, if we can, with the 5 names. Sorry, just a second, guys, and we'll get right to sharing out these vouchers.
Maybe I'll take advantage and in the meantime, from the sidelines, say thank you so much to our sponsors for this event. Being, oopsie, do I need a sip? Maybe, okay. So we want to give a big thank you to Ian Anderson's Caves Branch, as well as Turtle Inn and Blancano. And last but not least, Mystic River Resort. Those are our certificates that we are awarding to the award winners. And you will notice we have 5 award winners and 4 certificates. So for the 5th awardee, we are offering a free ticket to our annual gala on the 1st of November at a value of $75. Yeah, okay.
No, yeah, totally.
It's already there.
All right, so without further
All right,
ado,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have our first spin, and then I will be letting you guys know which prize that person gets. So you could go right ahead. And
Our first winner is Victoria.
all right, congratulations again, Miss Victoria Chi. You've done outstanding work for protection of Belize's wildlife. And for that work, we'd like to gift you with a certificate from Caves Branch for 6 people for a guided tour of their botanical gardens, as well as lunch included.
Amazing.
All right, and we will be in contact as to how we can best get this gift package to you as well. All right, and if we could go ahead and spin again.
Yeah. Yes, you would need to remove her.
All right, for Mr. Vasquez, Sergeant Vasquez, my apologies. We have an amazing gift certificate for you here from the Turtle Inn down in Placencia for a dinner for 2 at the Mar restaurant. So I know that you are off studying, Mr. Vasquez, but we do have this certificate here for you, and it's good until November 2026. So hopefully you can be around to go and enjoy that dinner by then. All right, now we have our 3rd winner, Mr. Marco Diaz. For Mr. Diaz, we have a award for a romantic 3-course dinner for 2 with a bottle of wine from Mystic River Resort. So sounds like you have a nice date night ahead of you when you have the time, Marco. I know that he's a very busy guy, but hopefully he can make use of this soon. And on to our next winner. We have Miss Stephanie Dawson. All right. Thank you, Miss Stephanie Dawson, for all that you do, and I hope that you continue teaching the kids the right way. And we have here for you a 3-course dinner for 2 with a complimentary glass of wine from Blancano Lodge. So again, a very nice certificate from Blancano. And I guess that leaves us with our last award for Miss Reina Cho, which is a free ticket to our gala coming up this November 1st. So, all right. Thank you again to all of our winners, all of our nominees, all of our viewers here today. Really, it wouldn't be possible without all of you guys. So we truly appreciate everything that you do for Belize's wildlife. And yeah, I do hope that you keep it up.
All right. Congratulations once again to everyone. And just to close it off, we do have those raffles, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
I think we have one more raffle for our survey asking for feedback on One Health issues and help needed. And then we have the last survey, which is the exit survey that we will raffle Monday. But I think the first one was already done.
Yeah, so we,
Yeah, closing remarks.
so we do need just a second to get this last raffle wheel ready, guys, for our lunch raffle. But like I had mentioned, if you guys go into the chat, you'll find a link to our exit survey. And yeah, that raffle will be done on Monday and awards will be given then as well. So,
All right. So yes, you mentioned the closing survey that is shared. There will be another raffle for that. What did I want to do for final remarks? I wanted to invite you to indeed do that exit survey and let us know if you would like to join a committee for future Wildlife Hero Awards. We hope to continue this. We hope to grow this over the years, and we would love to have you involved, ambassadors, nominees, as well as awardees for the first year now. We would love to have you on board to formalize this process more over time. And yes, we had the online voting, but indeed this was not a popularity contest. However, it was interesting to see who was able to rally most votes. Yeah, and I'm filling time for our final raffle.
so we'll have the share screen again and we'll see who will be the grand winner of a free fuel voucher now. All right, we have Miss Berenice with another win for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations, Miss Bernice. So you have a fuel raffle and a forget what the other one was. Okay, so that will actually be 2 fuel vouchers that you have won, Miss Bernice. So congratulations for that.
We have some money to rescue some animals. And official closing, I will hand over. Any final comments by anybody in the audience? We can take a final picture or no.
All right, so Frankie Reyes says he's done his survey, right? So please, this helps us, the closing survey helps us get some feedback on how we did on this conference and how we can improve to make it better for another time. Right, so guys, it was a wonderful time being your MC once again. Thank you all for joining. Thanks to the team who organized this virtual conference. It's been really great. It's been really informative, and it's been really inspiring to see all these people who are working for wildlife. So thank you all to our participants. Thank you all for organizers. The WAP team here, the BWRC team, you guys are really amazing at everything you do. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, trying to take a last picture here. If you can put your cameras up, I think we can take a screenshot together maybe. Don't know if that's possible. It should be.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, we have a couple of people with their cameras on. I don't know. Okay.
And also just a side note, I did just put that link to the exit survey in the comment section again.
Don't know how to do this. Remove pin. Not sure how to put everyone in one screen.
How about we use that one?
Participants. Yeah, help me. View, yeah. Gallery, yeah. There we are. All right, so can we put our video now? Maybe we can remove our fancy background.
That makes us not show more than one person.
So that. Oh, all right, so you can see all the team.
Behind the scenes.
All right, so let's go. Is this split screen or is it this one? All right, ready, everyone? 1, 2, 3, and snap. All right. Well, thank you very much once again. It's been a pleasure being with you all. And here's the entire team. Guess until we meet again.
All right, thank you all, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you.